Media is one of the biggest problems in the world today, in my opinion, because
Yes.
it's all about opinion. There's no news anymore. If you watch a particular channel, you're going to get a particular political point of view. There's very little free news, free of political bias these days. Media is giving opinions all the time when they report on something. I mean, the Ukraine war is one of the obvious ones, and Gaza is another one, of course.
Well, and the reporting is seemingly less and less actual investigative reporting where, they send somebody there or they dig through things. They just take official sources say this and then they report it.
I don't
So,
know with the Canadian broadcasting, and they show there's our guy in Gaza, and you see all the rubble all around him and stuff. I don't know. I think there are some, I hope, maybe I'm being hopeful, that some of the reporting or the BBC or something are more direct where they're not like Fox News or some of the others. I know
Well,
CNN could be good, but then they always have these different
oh, I'd have to
authority
disagree.
guys. They
I'd
come
have to
and they
disagree. I'd
discuss
have to disagree
discuss.
with you there. I think the BBC is one of the most appalling examples
I haven't watched them, but I always thought
of
they
bias
generally had
I've
a
ever seen. And CNN, I just can't bear to even look at the screen of CNN, let alone listen to their drivel. The point is even in the Second World War and other wars and other things, news channels would send out reporters on both sides, for example. Yeah. Now in the Ukraine war, nearly I would say 95% of the reporting is all Ukraine based. It's all nobody ever goes to the Russian side and says, "What's your view?"
the
What
Russians
they actually
mightn't allow it though. That's the problem.
Oh, I think they do. There are reporters in Moscow. In some of the internet reporters are there, but the other reporters though, Cyrus, from the big. I'm talking about MSM being the big main ones. ABC News and all those, and CNN and all those, and Fox as well. They don't report the other side. They report one side. And you'll have the reporter there on the Ukraine front lines saying, "Oh, and here we are. They just bombed this hospital, the terrible Russians." But nobody's on the Russian side saying, "How? Here's a Ukraine bombing in Kursk, killing the kids in the hospital." You don't get it. You get one side only, and that's part of the problems, and that's part of the left-hand path's manipulation of human beings by giving them one side of the story. So we have on the Gaza conflict, the terrible, terrible, evil Gaza conflict, just the reporting about how basically good the Israelis are. It's all to do with the terrible Palestinians who've done these things. And then on the Ukraine side, you've got another view. You've got how terrible the Russians are and how great the Ukrainians are. And so for me, I'd like to have a balance, and I think that is part of the problem with the world today, is that we don't have the Walter Klondikes of the world who actually
No.
just give you the news, you know.
I think there is something very positive happening in the world, and that is that the actual viewership of all those legacy, they call them legacy or mainstream media, is so down. I
Yes,
mean,
yes, yes.
MSNBC gets what, 200,000 people,
Yeah.
while you have these bloggers, I don't want to name them, but I mean, not bloggers, but people who are running podcasts, and we all heard of them, Joe Rogan,
Yes,
Dave
yes.
Smith, Candace Owen. There are so many who
yeah,
get
like Joe Rogan
millions.
gets more ratings than everything on CNN combined or something like that.
It
Yeah,
does,
the
yes.
millions and millions and millions, and they are really uncensored. They're not bought. Many of them actually, the public is recognizing when somebody is giving them information and when somebody is being backed up, and you can really see that unraveling now. How some of these rising stars, and then they discover, oh, they're being backed up by this or that lobby, and they sink. So I think we live in a really revolutionary times when it comes to the amount of information that's free out there. That's why
But
they tried to ban TikTok in the United States. It it killed all the legacy media.
legacy media is dying. There's no question about that.
But now they're
Archives.
coming up with the alternative mainstream media, like trying to control the mainstream. So they're creating their own. I get the left path, but we live in great times when people will have to use their discernment, which is one of the goals of the evolution. Very interesting times, So,
For sure. Far from what
I've
it's.
always, yeah, I mean, I've always banged the drum, as you know, Daniela, on political neutrality. I am not a fan of taking any sides in elections yet, disappointingly, a lot of our colleagues in the New Age esoteric movement do take sides. And actually, one very large and very well-known organization that you probably know and love held meditations for Biden and for Harris. Now that to me is almost black magic. I don't think our genre should be doing anything like that. What we should be doing is invoking the good and the light and the love and the compassion wherever it is found.
correct, yes.
On the other hand, if you sense something is very incorrect and you have your own choice to make whether it's right or not, then if you feel that a particular politician, so for instance, prior to the Second World War, there were a group of disciples. I try and remember their name. They're quite
Aldous
quite
Huxley
famous.
Wasn't it Aldous Huxley and some other people?
Yeah, Aldous Huxley and a few others. But one of them, where can I see his name? He's a really good writer. He wrote about Ramakrishna and Vedanta, and there was a whole group of them. And they tried just almost the same situation that Steven's mentioning, meditating to change Hitler, right? And the Tibetan master does say that that was a battle between light and the dark. And he even chastised theosophists for not being active in that. So if you feel that something is the nature very dark, tyrant, what have you, I don't say meditating and sending them love or whatnot. To me, that's nonsense. But if there's ways that you can help, whether you donate money or what have you, I think is fine. I'm not political at all, but if I sense there were darkness or something, right? I'm not an American, so I'm not involved in what's going on in the United States. And Canada is never very dark. It has its ups and downs, but everything is much different in Canada and the US. There's a different David force over the US than there is in Canada. So it's quite different.
I think the Hitler situation is a different situation entirely, and I think it's a false equivalency.
I'm not making an equivalent, I'm just giving as an example. And at that time that they were doing this was before the war, so Hitler wasn't at his worst yet. It was an interesting thing. There was some reporter that met Hitler. And this reporter must have been somewhat sensitive. I don't know. I can't remember. I read it a long time. But he sensed that there was a power flowing through Hitler and that Hitler wasn't himself. There was this power flowing through him. Then he met Hitler again much later. And he said that power was gone. And that's near when Hitler had lost control sometime after 1941, 42. That was a very interesting observation.
But the problem is, I listen to all of that and I accept that, but the problem is not that. The problem is that the left have used the language of Hitler against Trump, for example, who I'm not a particular supporter of. But the left have called Trump Hitler.
Yes, well, that's just
And
how things work.
it's an absurdity. Trump has not killed 3 million Jews. It's an absurdity, you know. Now,
Well,
I don't.
even more broadly than that, the justification for most of the wars we keep getting in are, harkening back to World War II. Like, we got to stop this guy before he becomes Hitler. And so
Yes.
World War II has become a very useful thing to weaponize to get us to do things that we don't need to keep doing for the most part.
A part of
Yes.
that has to do with, has to
Go
do
on.
with after the First World War, the war to end all wars. It didn't end all wars.
Well, the First World War was called that. The
Yes,
First World War. Yeah. But
yes.
but 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 my point actually is when I mention it, is not to appear to be sporting Trump, because I don't particularly like him and I think he's an egomaniac. It's not about that. My point is, as esotericists, we should not take sides, because we should be looking up, not down. And I have this argument with a lot of people, and they don't like me for it, but I don't really care.
No, that's
The point is, esotericists, if we're looking towards the externalization of the hierarchy and WESAC, which is what this stream is about, and everything else, is that we should be focusing on the light and do what Krishnamurti said. Krishnamurti said that God was like the sun and it shines on everybody equally. And that is exactly how I see it. Shines on Trump, shines on Biden, shines on Putin, shines on Netanyahu. Now, whether we like those people or not is not the point. The point is we should focus on the light. And of course, we should call out evil when we see it. There's no question about that. I call it out all the time. I think what the Israelis are doing to the Gazans is evil. We call it out. But as esotericists, though, we are better spending our energy and our spiritual capital on trying to enhance the externalization of the hierarchy, rather than worrying about the effects. Because I see Trump as like the destroyer, in the Hindu, Ramayana. He's the destroyer aspect. So it's not really about him; it's about the energy, and he's just displaying this energy of the destroyer. Not just him, but other people are as well. And I think we should be looking towards enhancing and distributing light wherever it is needed, rather than spending our time, which a lot of people in our genre do. I mean, I look at some of the Facebook pages, and I'm aghast.
Well, I think part of what you're hitting on, I want to jump in here, Stephen. I'm getting better. Stevens.
You'll get that right one day.
You have to have some humility when I can respect people having their opinion, even if it's different than mine, that they support this party or candidate or this set of policies or whatever. But you have to have the humility that there might be stuff you don't know, that some of your information might not be accurate or it might not be the whole picture. But the problem is people get so entrenched, right? So you can't just have a conversation of like, well, I think, to take Biden and Trump, I think Biden's good because of this, and the other person thinks Trump's good because of that. Like, the problem is people are so attached to these sides or these sort of ideological or tribal fixations that you can't have a kind of constructive intellectual conversation where you can actually have a real interchange that leads to something harmonious. I think that's part of the problem.
They're identified.
Conflicted emotional level. And you can feel the way you feel about things, but how did the Tibetan put it? You have to ride loose in the saddle, right? When you come up with something and it's like, oh, the guy I really like in power, oh, he's actually doing something that's not good, and somebody presents you with the evidence of it, you got to be willing to take a step back and think, oh, maybe it's not like that, And if people had that attitude, we could have more easy political conversations. But politics has become so sort of tribalized and emotionalized. And I think there's value, like you were saying, Steve, to focus on invoking the energies. And if that's the direction you're being led in, then you should focus on that and not worry about arguing with people on Facebook about, this or that issue, because,
No, an esotericist should not be identified politically. Can have an interest, but not identified. They've focused in their soul alignment. Just to be in soul alignment is your service to humanity.
The masters are not Democrats or Republicans, trust me. They're neither.
So,
It's
so getting
an
back,
absurdity.
is there any more you guys want to say on this topic? I think I might actually cut this out and just have it as a separate video. But if it was it was prophetic, Cyrus, that comment you made. But
I would like to add one thing that our
yeah, sure.
co-worker Tilly from Slovenia mentioned. He was somebody long time ago. Somebody mentioned political stuff right before one of our meditations, and Tilly Aristide, he mentioned that event, Cyrus, that you were talking about when the disciples were praying, and they were praying and they were meditating on Hitler and sending them a lot of love. And reportedly, Master DK said, "Do not send them love; it's gonna make them stronger. Just send them light, light, light." So if you ever wanna try to send something to a politician that you don't like, then don't send them love, send them light.
Yeah, I would never
So
be bothered with that, but
no, I don't do that. I think that's a type of a black man. It's not my place. I don't see the whole world. Truth is like the multifaceted jewel. You see only one side. And I don't want to waste my energy on that.
Well, you should meditate on, what your soul is guiding you to. So I'm
Correct.
sure
But many
there's somebody
people,
out there who probably is being led to send certain energies to politicians, and that's their dharma or whatever. But you got
But
to focus on whatever your thing is and where
I
you.
agree. I agree with everything. But the problem is there are some groups, some very well-known groups in our genre who actively don't do that. I'm very disappointing. These are Bailey students,
yeah.
and they are normally on the left, and they actively support left politicians by holding meditations based on DK teachings, and it's abhorrent to me, and I think it's part of the left-hand path, and I've had a lot of problems with these people, you know.
I
I
think
didn't
it's
even know
creating a
they
huge,
exist.
I think it's creating
So
actually,
I
it's,
said I don't even know they knew that they exist until you just mentioned it. So
Yeah,
I'm so
unfortunately,
far removed from everything, I don't get involved. So
I
just
do
in
believe,
conversation here. But
uh,
it's hard to change oneself. How can one think they can change the flow of destiny and others? That's a huge arrogance. And it shows that they don't understand the teaching and that they can be used. The Master KH in the Mahatma letters says probationers and aspirants and disciples are influenced by, he used the term dukpas, which is the left-hand path, much more than they think, because they're not conscious, dreaming that they are conscious, thinking that they are conscious, right? And that's why I said earlier, there are very few real disciples, not million. There are many in potential and probationers, but not yet disciples, not yet at that level. Many believe they are, but they are far from it. But that's part of the glamour that imprisons people, that they don't see correctly. And the work of the disciple is to align with their soul. When you take part in Waysack, not only are you helping your soul, but you are taking part in a hierarchical event. You are moving your karma, your spiritual karma, in alignment with a planetary yearly event. And if you do it more often, you're affecting your spiritual destiny, not only in this life, but in future lives. And that's very important. But to think that you can change others is, and how many can change themselves? How many can let go of their negative bad habits, negative emotions? How many have achieved ahimsa? Tibetan Master spent several pages on ahimsa, to be harmless towards others. So many people, when they put their posts, and I even watch myself, when I put a post are just thinking, well, look, here am I. I am serving. I am helping. That's an illusion. Most of it is just an expression of one's spiritual ego, wanting praise, wants how many likes you're going to get, no comments you're going to get.
You mean my everything is nothing post? That's not
Yeah,
doing it for people? I'm not changing the world?
everything. Right? It's like
The point
once,
is,
I'm sorry.
most of what happens in this world, in the incarnate world, is temporary. It's the illusion of separateness that dogs disciples. It's all temporary, all of it. We are here just for 70, 80 years. You know, we get so worked up over this politician or that politician or this group or that group that we lose sight of the basis of discipleship sometimes. And that's why DK said that the thing that's stopping the externalization is disciples, not the masses of humanity. The masses of humanity are ignorant. They don't know any better. So, but the disciples should know better and shouldn't get involved in these incarnate activities, but they continue to do so. And the worst thing is groups, esoteric groups do it too, and that's very disappointing.
Yeah, and I would say that because of the more power they have, they add so much more to the, world glamour and these thought forms, creating thought forms that are completely unnecessary with these meditations, and it's just creating more problem.
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest groups in the USA does that.
Which big
Or-
group is that?
Well,
These, I don't know any of them. What?
We will edit
He can
it
tell
out.
you afterwards. We don't need to
Okay, you don't want it recorded. Sorry, that makes
Oh no, I don't. I don't think it would be. I don't think it's very charitable of me to have it publicly.
But let's cut the I don't know how we would phrase it, the political conversation here, and I'll put this probably in a separate video. Maybe I'll leave it in, and then let's move back to WESAC, okay?
Good idea.
It was good conversation. I like that, I'm getting two videos for one here essentially.